Welcome back to Development Book Club. Today we are continuing with King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. And we're going to talk about chapter 3 today, which is about boy psychology, which I alluded to in the previous video. An example of boy psychology, or several examples the authors give, are like a drug dealer, someone who beats their wife, a man who beats his wife, a crabby boss, a hot shot, the cocky junior executive type, a yes man, an unfaithful husband, a gang member, holier than thou preachers or ministers, and the father who can't find the time to make it to his daughter's school program or something like that. And all of these people, all these examples, are boys pretending to be men. No one ever showed them, the authors claim, what being a mature man is or is like. And the idea is that we, in general, are continually or constantly mistaking these men's controlling, threatening, and hostile behaviors for strength or masculinity, and they're not. In reality, what they actually show is an underlying extreme vulnerability and weakness. And that's the vulnerability of a wounded child. Quick point on the archetypes we talked about last time, which is like the king, warrior, magician, and lover, and we'll get to those, is that each archetype, each of those four is shaped like, let's say, a pyramid, where at the top is the archetype in its fullness, so that would be the king, warrior, magician, lover. And at the bottom two vertices of the triangle are a dysfunctional or shadow form. And there's two options for each of them. In both, there's boy psychology and man psychology in both those forms, those triangles. And they can think of this as the immature, that it represents a psychological condition that is not integrated and cohesive yet. The adult male, so the adult in man psychology does not necessarily lose boyishness, and the archetypes that form the boyhood's foundation do not go away. A mature man, however, transcends the masculine powers of boyhood, building upon them as opposed to destroying or demolishing them. And the resulting structure is a pyramid over a pyramid, so like there's a solid pyramid and another one built over it. We'll hop into the archetypes of boy psychology, and these are not necessarily bad things. They're listed in the book here. There's some drawings. I'll show you. You'll see the divine child is one, the precocious child, the Oedipal child, and the hero. And those correspond to the king, the magician, the lover, and the warrior, respectively. You can see the immature forms of each one. So we'll cover those just real quick. The divine child, what would become the king properly. And this is that all the religions of the world, they are rich with stories of miraculous baby boys. So Jesus or Zoroaster and Moses, Krishna, Buddha, Dionysus in Greece. The divine child is both all-powerful and the center of the universe, and at the same time totally helpless and weak when they're born. In therapy, when a man starts to feel better, actually the urge to have children comes up. This works on a metaphorical level too, so like the divine creative child to come. But whenever this occurs, there's an attack from the proverbial Herods of, if you're familiar with the Bible, from within and without. So it's kind of an indicator that that's not far behind. And the important thing is to see the divine child is built into us all as a primal pattern of the immature masculine, claim the author. So if we have this child, the divine child, on each side of the vertices at the bottom would be, one is the high chair tyrant, and then the other one is the weakling prince. High chair tyrant, we've all heard of this, right? So they're the center of the universe, they make demands, and no fulfillment is ever good enough. They reject it. The high chair tyrant hurts himself with his grandiosity, the limitlessness of his demands, because he rejects the very things that he needs for life, which are like food and love, and they reject them. The shadow king, we'll get to later, is the adult manifestation of the high chair tyrant. And this is like the CEO or politician who rises quickly and sabotages their own success. So the high chair tyrant can attack his human or adult host like a parent, expecting perfection and berating himself when he can't meet the demands of the inner tyrant. The high chair tyrant expects better and better and better and is never satisfied with the performance. The divine child wants to be, but not do, and wanting all things to flow to them. The weakling prince is the other side of the coin here, or the bottom of the pyramid, and they appear to have no personality, no enthusiasm for life, and very little initiative. This is the boy who needs to be coddled constantly and who dictates those around him by his silence or whining and complaining helplessness. The idea of accessing the divine child now is that we need to acknowledge but not identify with the divine child so that we can access new and fresh opportunities. So there's kind of two questions here, which is, it's not whether we are manifesting the high chair tyrant or the weak prince, but how. Because we are all manifesting both to some extent and in some form. It's a question of how and to how much are we. And it's not whether the created child exists in us, but in how we are honoring or not honoring him. It's not a question of existence, but it's there, and it's like, what's our relationship to it? It's the idea here. And if we aren't feeling him in our personal lives, then we must know how we are blocking him. The idea is that these archetypes are all present in all of us. It's a question of how we relate to them and how much they're manifested in us. The second one is the precocious child. This is the boy who is eager to learn. He wants to share what they've learned with others, and the boy wants to know why for everything. Why is the sky blue? Why do leaves fall? Et cetera, et cetera. And though they might be introverted and reflective, he is also extroverted and eagerly reaches out to others to share his insights and talents. The precocious child is a man, keeps his sense of wonder and curiosity alive. It stimulates his intellect and move him in a better direction of, which is the mature magician, is the adult archetype there. The two shadow forms of the precocious child are the know-it-all trickster and the dummy. Know-it-all trickster is an expert at creating appearances and then selling us those appearances for his own benefit. So he's a manipulator and enjoys intimidating others. He is passive-aggressive, ultimately, is what this is. He does not necessarily limit his exaggerated precociousness to intellectual showmanship. And what that means, it can be about travels, experiences, or life. It's used always to elevate himself above others. Like, I'm superior to you is the implied or explicit message for the know-it-all trickster. And the idea here is that these people will alienate the very people that they need as support because of their superiority complex that they have. He doesn't really want responsibility. He just wants to do enough to wreck things for others. And all of this energy ultimately comes from envy. The trickster is activated developmentally in us when we have been depreciated or attached to our parents or older siblings. We have been emotional, or we've been emotionally abused. Other side of the bottom there is the dummy. The naive dummy is like the weakling prince, except for he has no personality, vigor, or creativity. So sort of even a lower form. Third boyhood archetype is the Oedipal child, and the mother he is seeking is not necessarily his own mother, who is bound to disappoint him, but rather the great mother. Think of kind of Plato here, and the goddess in her many forms in the myths and legends of many peoples and cultures around the world. The two shadows of the Oedipal child are the mama's boy and the dreamer. Mama's boy is tied to like their mother's apron strings, we say. Also, he often gets caught up in chasing whatever's beautiful, the poignant and yearning for union with the mom, from one woman to another to another. On the other side, there is the dreamer. And whereas the mama's boy actively seeks out the mother, the dreamer causes the boy to feel isolated and cut off from all human relationships. Instead, relationships are with intangible things and with the world of imagination within him. This boy will like sit on a rock dreaming his dreams while the other children are playing, is one way to know you see a dreamer. Finally, we have the hero, the fourth archetype, and the hero is one that ultimately becomes a warrior. And this is the only advanced form of boy psychology. It's the most advanced or peak form of masculine energies in a boy. Yet he's immature, given all that. The two shadow sides are the grandstanding bully and the coward. So the grandstanding bully tends to impress others, similar to the trickster we spoke about. He strives to proclaim his superiority and his right to dominate those around him. They're highly motivated, hotshot type, and we see this in adults clearly. Other side of the bottom of the pyramid of the hero is the coward, and this is someone who's reluctant to stand up for himself in physical confrontations when he has had enough of being a doormat. Even after that point, he still doesn't want to stand up for himself. The grandstanding bully will come out of the coward if in a rageful moment. And the idea here is that in mythology, the hero, being this is still a boy psychology, usually dies, is transformed into a god and translated into heaven. And the death of the hero in mythology signifies the death of boyhood, of boy psychology. And what comes after that is man psychology, which we will cover next time. We'll see you then.